Gentlemen, please welcome General Manager, Something New, AWS Marketplace, Stephen Orban.
Good morning, Chicago. It's awesome to be here with all of you this week. I continue to be amazed at all of the innovation that's emanating from our local customers here in Chicago. Many of you, McDonald's, CME Group, GE Healthcare, Agiro, and many others are just some of the many local companies who are using AWS to create game-changing experiences for their customers. And I'm super grateful that many of them are here to share their experiences with you this morning. Now, it's also nice to see that the Cubbies are in the first place in the National League while I'm here. And while I realize that that might not play well to all the White Sox fans here in the crowd, sorry, Kenny, the one thing I know that we can all agree on as a Buffalo native is that non-alcoholic carbonated beverages should always be referred to as pop. So my name is Stephen Orban, and I joined AWS 4 years ago to look after our enterprise strategy globally, and have recently become the general manager for something new that I'm looking forward to sharing more with you about in 2019. And prior to joining AWS, I spent several years as the CIO of Dow Jones, where I had the opportunity to work with some of the brightest minds in both financial services and media as we worked to help Dow Jones transform their business using modern technology. And over the last 4 years, I've spent my time in two key areas. The first is working with executives from the largest companies in the world and really helping them transform their people, process, and culture using the cloud. And secondly, taking what we learned from those conversations and building services and programs, some of which I'm going to share with you about today, to help them transform their culture into a great place for builders to work. So this morning, I'm really excited to share with you some of the things that we've learned helping our customers, as well as giving you an update on some of the things that we've built and how our customers are using them. And like all of our events, today's summit is really a learning and development experience, much more than it is a sales and marketing conference. There are more than 6,000 people here today from hundreds of companies. And in addition to the more than 100 technical sessions we've designed to help you learn what others are doing with the cloud, I'd really encourage you to take this opportunity to learn from each other. So many of you are doing some never-before possible things with the cloud, and one of the best ways that we found our customers learn is really from each other. So before we get into all the things that we've been building, I thought I'd give you a quick update on how our business has been progressing. Now, most technologists and builders that I talk to tell me that the cloud has really introduced a seismic shift in the way companies of all sizes consume IT, and has made way for thousands of new businesses, whether it's a new startup business or established business in large companies, to innovate in ways never before possible. Still, the founders of AWS certainly did not predict that they were onto something that many of you would be compelled to build your businesses on, nor that just 12 years after starting the business, we would see a 49% year-over-year growth, taking us to a more than $24 billion annual run rate business. And we're super excited that you found value in something that we love to build. And we're eager to continue to hear from you and direct our efforts based on your feedback. More than 90% of our roadmap is driven by exactly what our customers tell us we should build. So it's super important for us, for you to continue to tell us the things that you don't think that we're doing right, the kind of technologies that you still want to see, and what your pain points are. And in case you were wondering if this growth is coming from just a small number of customers growing really large, I'm happy to report that we have millions of active customers on the platform each and every month. And not only has this growth increased, but it's come from every type of organization that consumes IT. In the startup community, AWS has been the default choice for some time. AWS has enabled thousands of startups to come out of nowhere and often disrupt entire industries. These are companies which many of you have probably heard of, like Airbnb, Pinterest, Redmart, Property Guru, Flipboard, SmugMug, and thousands of others. These startups simply do not have the time to be building services that don't make their business different. And they benefit from the fact that AWS has more than 125 services across a wide range of categories that they can build their business on. But we're also seeing adoption spread really quickly across companies who already have well-established IT organizations, oftentimes so that they can remain competitive with these ambitious startups. In media, my alma mater, Dow Jones and News Corp, became cloud first and migrated more than 50 data centers to the cloud in an effort to save more than $100 million and devote those resources back into building their business. Condé Nast, the New York Times, and Hearst are all on similar journeys. In healthcare, Bristol-Myers Squibb is using AWS to run computational-intensive clinical trial simulations while reducing their costs and time to market by orders of magnitude. Merck and Novartis, also on similar journeys. Capital One is using AWS to transform their culture into a great place for builders to innovate and migrating several of their data centers in the process while they transform financial services. Here in Chicago, GE Healthcare, McDonald's, and the Marmon Group are just some of the customers who you'll be able to hear with us this morning. When it comes down to it, every imaginable business segment is now using AWS in a meaningful way. And we've also built a pretty large public sector business. We have tens of thousands of customers from government, education, and nonprofit sectors. And many of these government agencies are enjoying the benefit of really having a common infrastructure platform across many of the departments or agencies so that they can benefit from a larger community. And from the beginning, AWS knew that we would not be able to get sufficient reach alone or by ourselves. And this is why there's a growing inventory of consulting partners that are available to help companies of all sizes understand and implement the cloud in their business. There's a fast-growing ecosystem of born-in-the-cloud vendors, like CloudReach, SecondWatch, CTP, and Rain Cloud. And at this point, all of the major consulting firms, whether it be Deloitte, Accenture, Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, or any of the others, are all growing cloud practices and helping their customers understand what the cloud means to them. There's also a rich set of third-party tools that are available to help companies manage their IT environments on AWS. Similar to the consulting partners, many of them are born in the cloud. Folks like C3 IoT, who's now using heavy machine learning as it helps customers transform their business using IoT. But there's also a number of traditional IT vendors, folks like Riverbed, Splunk, SAP, and others who are now making really big investments to make their solutions available in a cloud-friendly way. These ISVs understand that their solutions really need to work well on AWS because that's where you, their customers, are. And you should continue to tell both us and them what we can do better to help all of you innovate faster. And our customers tell us that our pace of innovation is one of the main reasons that they're compelled to the platform. We launched more than 1,400 features and services for you last year alone. That means that every single day, you have approximately 3 new features or services for you to try out and see what innovations that you can unleash into your business, all of which are included just for being a customer. No other platform is innovating anywhere near this quickly, nor are they innovating on such a broad domain. And we remain committed to keeping up with this pace of innovation and building the new features that you ask us for. So we have a leadership principle at Amazon that we call bias for action, where all of us Amazonians are really encouraged to make decisions quickly. Because as Jeff Bezos, our founder and CEO, often says, speed matters in business. And most of our customers recognize this as well. In fact, all of you are probably here because you want to build products quickly. And you want to use modern development tools and methodologies to get there. And one of the things that our customers have taught us over the years is that everybody in today's modern organization can and should be empowered to be a builder. I'm willing to bet that most of the people in this room today are builders. But more and more people inside of your companies are becoming builders as well. Developers aren't the only builders. The CTO, the CMO, and your other executives need to be thinking about how they can build the business, build marketing collateral, create a great culture for builders to thrive in, and increasingly need to become data scientists using the rich amount of data that you have in your companies. Data analysts need to build complex data warehouses, data pipelines, and reporting to answer tough questions for your executives and your customers. Data scientists are building machine learning models on top of that data. They have to train, iterate, and publish those models for everybody else to use. And your business analyst is now really combining all of these capabilities together and then building solutions that often now cut across the whole organization in ways that were never before possible. And in addition to thinking about how everybody in your organization is becoming a builder, we think it's also important that you start to rethink your concept of an application. There's no one way to build an application anymore because customers have come to expect so much more from the technology that they interact with. Customers now want to talk to their applications. They want their applications and the technology they use to get smarter as they use it more. And they're expecting a much more integrated experience where maybe the information from other applications and maybe even sensors on devices are now combined to make the customer experience much better. That's why agility is so important for today's builders. Builders need to be able to experiment and involve their applications super quickly without disrupting your schedules or your budgets. This means that you need to iterate and be able to change fast and respond to feedback as soon as your customers give it to you. Deploying your software once or twice a week is no longer competitive. You need to be thinking about how you can deploy your software dozens of times per day if that's what your customers want. Now, when I was the CIO of Dow Jones, migrating to the cloud was one of the most profound changes that we made across the organization. We went from Tuesday and Thursday release nights, where 50 or 60 people would get on a bridge, we'd try to roll out software, undoubtedly something would go wrong, and we'd have to roll it back and try again the next day, to being able to make hundreds of releases a month whenever a builder had a new idea, which was an absolute game changer for our ability to meet customer needs and compete in the marketplace. And as a builder, you also need to stay on top of how your user experiences are changing. Mobile changed the game a decade ago, and we're now seeing a very similar shift with voice, artificial intelligence, and even virtual reality. You have ever-increasing access to user context, which means that you can build a much more personalized and relevant experience for your customers. And there's a tighter relationship than ever before between the builder and the customer. And we're really starting to see that cause enterprise IT to completely transform with it. It used to be that you'd have an IT department with developers that sat over here, and the internal customers of those applications that sat in another department over there. Customers gave the requirements, the IT department went away for a couple of months, and then they came back with something that might not have been exactly what the customers or the business wanted. And I don't know about in your organizations, but in my experience, infrastructure teams and application teams, they don't always get along. The application teams think the infrastructure teams don't understand their deadlines and don't move quickly enough. The infrastructure teams think the application teams don't understand how to run things in production and are sometimes cowboys. But we're seeing some of the largest organizations in the world, companies like News Corp, GE, and Capital One, transform the way they work because their builders are working iteratively and quickly, sharing progress updates with the customers as they go. The end result, of course, is a much better user experience. And because we're able to work with millions of customers who are vocal about the things that they want us to do, we've been able to build more than 125 services across 55 availability zones and 18 regions all around the world, with many, many more on the way. And across these services, you'll find a robust set of compute, storage, database, and networking offerings that allow you to build really simple applications quickly, but also allow you the fine-grained controls needed to both migrate and develop really sophisticated applications, and then everything in between. And as we continue to iterate on the information security space to provide you with the most trusted and secure cloud platform, we're continuing to add features and certifications that make it easier for you to meet both your security and your compliance requirements. We have everything from basic identity management to sophisticated monitoring of your API calls, who made them, what they change, and when. We offer a number of platform services that make it easier to deploy, operate, and manage your applications, while also gaining insight in the vast amounts of data that they generate. This includes several flavors of a hosted Hadoop solution, a data warehouse, a real-time streaming data service, a queuing service, application workflow management, DevOps management tools, and a number of mobile services as well. We've got a number of artificial intelligence and machine learning services, which you'll hear more about shortly. And for all of these services, we have a large team of customer support and solutions architects that will work with you to help you operate your applications. At the end of the day, AWS has the broadest and deepest cloud platform in the industry. And our customers tell us that our relentless focus on releasing new features helps them focus more on the things that matter in their business. So, to talk to us about how the breadth of these services has helped them transform their business, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Bernie Gracey, the Chief Digital Officer of Aurora, to the stage.
Morning, Chicago. I am very excited to be here today on behalf of the builders of Aurora, who have been partnering with Amazon to transform a 46-year-old company into the digital age. I'll tell you that story. By a show of hands, how many of you have been broken down on the side of the road and needed wow, not that many. You must be all doing Uber or something. This is actually really important. I'm going to get to that topic. There's still a lot of car ownership out there. For those of you who have a driver's license, either through your warranty of your vehicle or through your insurance policy, 1 out of every 3 of you is actually covered by Aurora. But you didn't know that. I'll get into that why. We process thousands, tens of thousands a day of disablements like this to get people back on the road, and actually do it 10 million times a year, 7 by 24 by 365. We are a classic multi-sided platform. On one side, a series of iconic brands in property casualty insurance, in automotive, and some very unique digital properties that look at what we do as a natural adjacency for them. On the other side of the platform are independent towing companies, thousands of them, independent roadside assistance companies who will fix your flat or to jump your car, and obviously repair stations. And what we do is basically matching and selection based on the commitments we've made to our clients, the SLAs, the experience they want to have for that brand, to be able to figure out the right service to be able to provide that person in the location so we can get them back on the road. Our industry is going through rapid transformation, and by the show of hands, I now see why. Car ownership, car subscriptions. Composite materials in distracted driving, explosion of claims expense and repair cost. Brands that are now looking to differentiate themselves, brands who realize that the roadside assistance experience could be the very first touch point with that customer. And one of the key areas, we're all digital addicts, is distracted driving for sure, around the safety area. And customers who expect a lot. If they don't get great service, they're going to go on Twitter and let everyone know about it. So we, as part of those iconic brands, the bar is being raised on us as a service provider to not only provide higher and higher availability, but to innovate at the speed that Steve just talked about. We had a client that said, I have this idea, and it needs to be delivered tomorrow. We did it from concept to delivered because of the builders and our partnership. Time to value is critical for us. More importantly, time to value is critical for our stakeholders. Ultimately, though, it's all about shifting left, right? For all of us in the room, it's getting closer to our client, getting closer to our customer, getting closer to a tow truck driver, and saying, what more value can we deliver to them faster and faster? So for us, for all of us in the room, for all the builders in the room, it was go digital or go home. This is my third digital transformation in my career, and this is a Bernie pattern. This is not coming from an analyst, but this is a pattern I've seen repeated over and over again, especially for an established company. A founder comes up with a concept and says, this is, I think, what the value chain is, and they become good at it. They become operationally excellent. Then they begin to explore some adjacencies and become dominant in that space. In the industrial age, in cases for a long time. Then there's a technology disruption. And that technology disruption happens where you say, you know what, I want to kind of go off to the side, play with this a little bit and see and fail fast. Is this something that we could actually use? Steve just talked about the innovation that's happening in the AWS ecosystem. But think about then the application of that internally. And then if those applications succeed, if those learnings happen, you put on a new lens of what is possible to do within your own company. And you re-look at those value chains completely differently and saying, wow, the impossible is now possible. It's interesting, though, as IT professionals, and for especially with a large installed base and a mission-critical application, there are analysts who basically say, you need to organize two different ways. If you have a high availability mission-critical application that's legacy, you need to treat that separately. You need to focus on security, safety, reliability, predictability. That's not the place to innovate. You want to create a second team that is focusing on the innovation, that's failing fast, that's using applications, that's experimenting. And those two worlds should be different. With all due respect to those analysts, I completely disagree. How many of you would want to be in mode 1? Raise your hands. How many of you want to be in mode 2? Raise your hands. Right? You want to be working with the latest technology. So for me, innovation is everyone's job. You have to innovate in your core. You have to innovate in the adjacencies. And what I'm going to do is to give you 3 brief examples of how we partnered with Amazon to basically redefine key elements of our business. The first, I told you we do 10 million events a day. 1 million of those are accidents. And we provide a crash response system, so basically get people on scene, get them safe, clean up the accident, and begin to manage the process through the first notice of loss. But someone had an idea that said, wait a minute, that distracted driving platform could actually be a platform to save people's lives. Could we use this platform to actually determine with sensor fusion, are people driving unsafe? Are they cornering too hard? Are they going past the speed limit? Are they braking hard? And can we send them little nudges with regards to not while they're driving, that they're driving unsafe? More importantly, can we turn this into an airbag detector so that if something goes wrong, we can initiate through a straight line process those emergency services and that crash application? And so it was an idea that we had. And we said, let's put an application. Let's crowdsource it. 300,000 people downloaded our application and basically validated the algorithms that both are now possible. For all of you who went to reInvent last year, Dr. Werner Vogel put up a slide of the best applications of serverless. He talked about 4 companies. One of those 4 companies was Agero. Our crash detection algorithms, our driver scoring algorithms, all done using Lambda. Heavy use of machine learning with all the data we were capturing on the road, plus our crash detection algorithms to be able to initiate the process of a highly proven, highly scalable capability. The use of Lambda allowed us to focus in on the business logic and what we were attempting to do, and Amazon basically took care of the rest. And we were so proud that Werner brought us up as one of the key examples. There were a whole bunch of benefits. Obviously, one is that we had new competencies look at the world. We are a big focus on serverless, data science. We brought in data scientists. I now have full stack data scientists, extremely powerful people who are innovating like mad. And we now look all things through the lens of machine learning. More importantly, we are a talent magnet because of the kind of work we do. We're doing critical work. Our work is mission critical. We're in the business of saving people's lives, and people want to be a part of it. Within the core, we're extremely proud. We started out as a call center company. People call all the time, so we have thousands of call center agents. You naturally deploy interactive visual response to be able to intercept some parts of the call. And we continue to deploy a set of capabilities where through telematics, you can request a tow right from your screen, and other capabilities by exposing APIs so that if your insurance carrier has an app, you can request roadside assistance right from your app. They're calling your APIs. What we did do is to create an application, however, that if you're calling and we detect you're on a phone, we actually say, can we send you a text message where you can click on an app, launch the app, not download the app, launch a throwaway application, and go through the process of capturing all the information you need to do roadside assistance. In fact, we won the best award for the best omnichannel solution in the market. What's not known underneath is that we had taken a 15-year-old legacy application, a monolith, decomposed it through service encapsulation, created 200 microservices, and are able to orchestrate those services completely underneath this to drive the experience. So instead of an application that was dedicated for an agent, we're now able to orchestrate these services for everyone. And we won the award for best omnichannel application in the market this year. One last piece, automation. I love automation. Business continuity is sexy. Disaster recovery is sexy, especially for our business. And I have a team of builders who focus in on availability. We were an on-prem company. And by partnering with AWS and leveraging Lambda and Ansible, right, and Jenkins, we're able to create scripts. Our migration to the cloud actually started by going up to the East region and failing back on-prem. Being in a single region, multi-AZ, was not good enough for us. We knew we needed to be active, multiple region, multi-AZ, but we started in that path. And now all those workloads are automated. And again, we get the same benefits, a whole new set of capabilities by partnering with Amazon. This is just a subset, small subset, of all the innovation that we've leveraged from Amazon to innovate on behalf of our clients, on behalf of our stakeholders. Because at Agero, and by partnering with Amazon, innovation is possible for everybody in the business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie. I feel a little bit safer driving in New York City now, although I'm not really sure I feel any safer driving through Chicago and Lollapalooza, but we'll see. Now, if we focus in on our compute services, while it may just seem like a small box in the overall portfolio of services that we offer, compute is very much core to what we do. And if you look inside of our compute services, it's incredibly broad. Compute is no longer limited to just the servers. Customers are also demanding a way to easily encapsulate and pack their applications together using containers. And many customers are taking that a step further and moving into the world of serverless, where they can focus solely on their code and their business logic and not have to worry about any of the compute infrastructure underneath. And our customers have taught us that there is a time and a place for each of these paradigms. If you start with virtual machines, it's typically large, monolithic pieces of software, maybe off-the-shelf software, or other systems that in the past you've run inside of a virtual machine. This is probably closest to how many of you have done development in the past. You pick a Linux or a Windows box, and you deploy your software into it. But there are many key advantages to using virtual machines on AWS that you wouldn't be able to replicate anywhere else. In the old world, once you bought a piece of hardware, you were stuck with it for 3, 5, or maybe even more years than that. But at AWS, we're able to introduce new releases and new versions of our hardware in ways that you would likely not be able to afford yourselves. And you can immediately exploit them once they're available to you. Skyline processors are already part of the latest C5 instances. The T2s are small, lightweight, burstable instance types that really drive down your instance costs on your most bursty workloads. The M family is our general purpose workhorses, where we're now on our 5th generation. We have the X1s, where you can run SAP HANA in memory. And then we have a whole range of dedicated instance types. The G2s help you with your graphics processing workloads. And the P2s are the general purpose GPUs, where there's a much larger memory footprint on the GPU boards, which makes them really well suited for deep learning. The F1s are field programmable gateways where you can purpose-built incredibly fast acceleration into your software. And our customers have lately told us that they wanted different combinations of these instances. So let's say that you wanted to use an R4, but you also wanted to attach a GPU to it so that you can do some graphics processing. So last year, we launched something called Elastic GPUs, where you can attach a GPU to any one of the instance types that you have. And today, I'm super excited to introduce you to the R5 instance, the next generation of our memory-optimized instances. The R5 offers up to 50% more virtual CPU and 57% more memory than the R4. And best of all, the R5 instance also has a 9.5% lower price per gigabit than the R4 instance. This makes the R5 ideally suited for applications like high-performance databases, distributed in-memory caches, and big data and analytics. So the R5 is great for your most memory-intensive workloads. But what if you have workloads that require higher single-thread performance as well as more memory? For you, we recently launched the new Z1D instance, which delivers the highest sustained turbo CPU clock speed in the public cloud. It provides 48 virtual CPUs, 384 gigabits of RAM, and 1.8 terabytes of local SSD storage. So these instance types are really optimized for low latency, CPU-bound, or latency-sensitive workloads like electronic design automation, or maybe relational database workloads where customers are penalized with high per-core licensing fees, and HPC workloads that are really common in financial services and manufacturing. This is the kind of innovation on servers that nobody's done before. And we're super delighted to continue to listen to you and build the features that you need for all of your different types of diverse workloads. So containers are the next step in this journey. With containers, you can describe your independent software services as code, which makes them easier to ship, scale, and move around. And you can also really start to pack them much more efficiently into your instances. But even with those advantages, you now have to manage all of these containers moving around in your environment. And some of our customers have told us that they've then had to compromise on some of their security requirements as a result. So in some cases, this moves everything back to square one, where now, again, you're having to manage too much infrastructure, which is why customers asked us to build a managed environment for containers. And this is why we built the Amazon EC2 Container Service, or ECS, which our customers have told us is the best destination and environment for them to run their container fleet in. ECS has a number of convenient container features. It has a container registry where you can store and inventory your images. We help you deploy automatically into multiple availability zones for better fault tolerance. There are different types of scheduling techniques available. But perhaps most importantly, is that it's deeply integrated into the rest of the AWS platform. And we have many customers that have built extensive microservices environments on top of ECS. Here in Chicago, McDonald's built a cloud-native microservices architecture in ECS in under 4 months. And this architecture allows McDonald's to scale to 20,000 orders per second with less than 100 millisecond latency. And they also developed some open APIs so that their global partners can integrate with it as well. Today, ECS has over 100,000 active ECS clusters with hundreds of millions of containers started each and every week. So ECS is great, but our customers are also often running Kubernetes, which is a popular open source framework for containers. But they didn't want to run it themselves. Customers wanted us to manage the Kubernetes environment for them, which is why we launched EKS, the Elastic Kubernetes Service, to make sure you can run your Kubernetes clusters in a similar way that you can run in ECS. But even with these great container services, containers often come with a piece of infrastructure management that some customers just don't want to deal with. So for them, we launched AWS Fargate. With Fargate, you focus only on your application you don't deal with clusters or any of the infrastructure at all. You can launch and scale quickly and easily, and you pay only for what you use, not based on the overall size of your cluster. This allows you to spend your time building and innovating and less time managing containers. So all of this gives us 4 different solutions for running containers on AWS. Amazon EKS is now in preview, and AWS Fargate for EKS will be coming later this year. Nowhere else can you find this kind of flexibility for containers. So we see a lot of our customers, particularly moving their existing applications to containers. But what if you don't want to manage any servers or any containers? What if you wanted your infrastructure to be completely invisible? What if you only needed to think about the business logic for your customers and not about the underlying infrastructure at all? For you, we have AWS Lambda. With AWS Lambda, you no longer have to think about managing instances or managing servers or managing any type of infrastructure. You can write your code, deploy it, and Lambda will take care of spinning up and down the resources needed to run your code. It integrates with many other AWS services, and you only have to pay for what you use. Perhaps best of all, the free tier allows you to respond to millions of events. And beyond that, you're only charged in increments of 100 millisecond compute cycles. Now, I can tell you as a former CIO who has never done capacity planning well, I firmly believe that Lambda is one of the most innovative technologies to be born from cloud computing, and I'm super excited to see what you all continue to build with it. And in case you were wondering, we're not just seeing the young, hip, cool kids from the startups using serverless architectures. As someone who spends most of his time with executives and enterprise CIOs, I can tell you that every enterprise I speak to is looking to do more with serverless architectures. FINRA is a great example. Some of you probably know FINRA. They're the financial regulator in the United States that tracks all market data activity. So they have these enormous streams of data coming into their system that's built on AWS. Well over 75 billion financial transactions happening every single day. And for each one of these transactions, FINRA triggers a Lambda function to look for suspicious activity. And BMC recently launched their TrueSight cloud security offering last year as a serverless architecture, which allowed them to get to market much faster and made them much more operationally lean in the process. The key here is choice. No other cloud platform has anywhere near this many compute options or depth to each option, because no other cloud platform has as many customers asking for more features, capabilities, and choice. And we're super excited to see what you continue to build with these. Now, to talk to us about how they're using the range of our compute platform to reinvent how many of us get our pop, I'm excited to introduce to you Jeff Gracey, Chief Innovation Officer from Marmon Holdings, to the stage.
Thank you, Stephen. I am Jeff Gracey, the Chief Innovation Officer of Marmon Holdings, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about how we're using Amazon Web Services. But first, I should probably tell you a little bit about Marmon, because we are likely the biggest Chicago company you have never heard of before. We're actually an $8 billion subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway, and we are focused on the business-to-business market. So we make a variety of industrial products and have some industrial services. And we actually operate 175 independent businesses, which means as Chief Innovation Officer, I try to visit all of them, and unfortunately, we're actually acquiring them faster I can visit them. And we have 14 very diverse business sectors. And that's important to us because we can't have a one-size-fits-all solution. We make a variety of products, from engineered components to retail technologies to crane and rail car leasing. We make the tiny little screws that keep your phone watertight if you should accidentally drop it in the pool or someplace else. And we also make big, giant rail tank cars that bring oil to market. We make safety gloves for your hands. We make the mining flashlights that they use when they go down into coal mines and gold mines. We make commercial ovens that cook pizzas and steaks and fish in hotels. We make water softeners, and we also make a lot of the pipes that carry medical gases around hospitals. In short, we're an industrial manufacturing company, and that's what we really want to be. That's what we're good at. But at the same time, we want to be able to use all the latest and greatest technology to support our customers and bring better products to the market. And with our partnership with Amazon, we can do that without having to become an IoT company ourselves. When we started to think about how we could transform in manufacturing, we knew we had to be digital. But as we began looking at that, we were worried about some things. There was a lot of complexity. What platform to use? What tools to use? There was significant cost in many cases. And a lot of times we found constraints that prevented us from moving as fast as we would like to in the market. We knew we needed to find an alternate solution. And fortunately, with AWS, we were able to do that. We found a path forward. It provided the simplicity, the affordability, and perhaps most importantly, the flexibility we needed to go into the digital era. We could be a great manufacturing company thanks to AWS with all the technology we needed. Our journey into the digital world really began with beverage dispensing, which is also where I began my career at Marmon. Our company, Cornelia, started to deploy digital dispensers into the field and saw that there was a need for connectivity. The dispensers had large screens to enable digital marketing, and that content needed to be refreshed. They could collect data on what products were being sold to consumers, and that needed to be analyzed and interpreted to identify trends. They also had onboard sensors to tell us how the machine was performing, which were designed to be accessed by the technician standing next to them, but could be accessed remotely if we could figure out how to make that connectivity. We also saw that there was probably some opportunities to generate new revenue streams and new business models with digital services. However, because at the time we were putting all the data onto the machines and taking it off of the machines with USB sticks, it wasn't really cost effective. We needed IoT. We needed that connectivity. We actually got started on a platform other than AWS, and I will tell you that our initial efforts were somewhat complex and were quite expensive. All of the programmers that we were employing had to learn special programming languages in order to develop these platforms. It took several weeks for them to do that, which made it longer to roll things out. They had high license fees, so they were fairly expensive. And we also had to purchase and maintain expensive servers, so it started to feel like we were becoming an IoT company. We also couldn't find a lot of help because of the special languages, so we had to do most of the work on our own. It wasn't a really good place to be. We couldn't commercialize. AWS, though, provided a structure that was both easy to explain and easy to present to customers. It could link our machines to the cloud. It had the tools we needed to manage and analyze data. And it could support our customers, both small and large. It was the solution that we needed. We roll it out, and we found all those benefits we were looking for. Simple, affordable, and a flexible tool that we needed. We could do everything with AWS, from development to analytics, using tools that they already had. We could scale up very quickly because of the Lambda and serverless capabilities. We found that it was 70% less expensive than what we'd been using before, so that was a pretty important thing. And it also had all the redundancy for our data that we were looking for, so we could make sure we could always operate our business. The IoT platform was actually one of the tools I took with me when I left Cornelius and made the transition into the Chief Innovation Officer role at Marmon. We're now using this platform from AWS across many of our businesses, including engineered components, food, and water. And today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of examples, one dealing with burgers and one dealing with screws. So, some very non-tech things. You may have heard of the nursery rhyme that talks about how the kingdom was lost for want of a nail. Well, sometimes success really can come down to a single screw. And I will tell you, one of the worst conversations you ever will have with your boss is, hey, I had to turn off the factory because we ran out of screws. Screws that cost on average 2 cents or less. It's not something you want to do. And with our new stocks program built upon the AWS cloud, you don't have to. We actually deploy connected sensors with our stock system onto the shelves of our customers' inventory racks. And when they take screws to use, we know to replenish them. We can do that through a cloud-based system with no need for a purchase order or an invoice. It means you never run out of screws, in addition to being simple and easy. We're also using our AWS platform to help manage the transition from frozen to fresh beef in the fast food industry. We're helping to drive that while also innovating our product using tools from AWS. One of our companies, Silver King, makes a special unit that actually holds both frozen and fresh beef side by side so that it can be ready to cook. It has temperature sensors to make sure that the fresh beef doesn't get too warm. We provide remote monitoring of that so we can actually send text message alarms to the store managers to tell them when they're approaching a potential danger zone. Most of the time, that's actually caused because the people working at the store leave the door to the system open, because as it turns out, teenagers who work in fast food restaurants leave refrigerator doors open just like they do at home. We also, though, saw with this almost every shift that there was a temperature alarm taking place. And when we investigated, what we found was that when they were restocking the refrigerator, they were pushing the trays in too far, and that was actually disrupting the flow of cooling air, causing the temperature to spike a little bit. We could tell them to do that with training, but we actually used that data to change the product design from our alpha to our beta version, putting in bump outs so that you couldn't push the tray in too far. That actually helped us solve the problem from ever happening again. We're actually experimenting with some new technology from AWS, including facial recognition and voice recognition technology. We actually have that deployed on a dispenser at AWS here in Chicago, which allows customers to get advanced loyalty programs from us and consumers to order their cherry lime Diet Coke without actually having to have their wallet in their hand. We've built a platform that we call MIM, using AWS tools to connect our machines to the cloud, and we've used AWS and its partners to bring it to life. We collect data from thousands of machines and analyze it so that we can have the insights to drive our business forward. In short, AWS has been the tool that we need to be a manufacturing company with a digital future. It's given us the simplicity, the flexibility, and the affordability that we need to be successful in business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Stay thirsty, my friend. Data and analytics is the next key ingredient to today's modern application. And our customers have told us that AWS is the only platform that gives them a complete, comprehensive solution to all the different pieces that make up today's modern data architecture. And for many of our customers, a big part of their data architecture is in the relational database. But some of these old world databases, they can really be a nightmare. Whether you're running them on premises or in the cloud, they can be really expensive. And over the last couple of years, the commercial database space has not really been a friendly one for builders. It's because many of these commercial-grade databases are expensive. They're proprietary. They have a high amount of lock-in. They often come with punitive licensing terms. And some of you sometimes get the occasional email that says, "Congratulations, you're about to be audited." And lately, we're seeing some of these commercial database providers increase their licensing costs just because you want to run your database in the cloud. How is that for customer centricity or friendliness? And this is why we developed the AWS Database Migration Service, which is a simple-to-use service which supports the migration of most commercial and open-source databases to and from AWS, either targeting our fully managed database as a service offerings or allowing you to continue to run your databases on top of EC2. The database migration service has migrated more than 83,000 databases from on-premises to the cloud. It's in a fully managed environment where you can continue to migrate your data into the cloud while your applications are continuing to run on it. This means that you no longer need to stop your business for a whole weekend just because you want to migrate your database to the cloud. You can do it in real time, and with the schema conversion tool, we're making it really easy to go from old guard database technologies to a commercially friendly one like Amazon Aurora, which is an enterprise-grade database at a fraction of the cost of traditional proprietary databases. And Aurora comes with a high availability that I think, even for an enterprise database, is unparalleled. Replication across 3 availability zones means that you always have access to local storage that's very fast. And again, this is at a fraction of the cost and at sometimes 10 times the performance of open source databases. One of my favorite Aurora customers is Beachbody. So in addition to transforming my physical fitness with their P90X program years ago, Beachbody is a leading provider of fitness, nutrition, and weight loss programs that empower millions of customers. Beachbody used Aurora to help them transition from their DVD sales to its Beachbody On Demand service, streaming service, which now supports millions of customers and peaks at over 250,000 users in a single day, as well as making live events possible. BuildOut is a Chicago-based software company for marketing commercial real estate listings, empowering brokerages across the nation to showcase their brand and grow their business. BuildOut is all in on AWS and is using Aurora MySQL extensively in their backends. But even with Aurora, customers have told us that they simply don't want to manage the capacity, particularly for unpredictable or bursty workloads. And if you have unpredictable workloads, you might not be able to anticipate your capacity, or you always have to provision for peak, which we all know is not the most cost-effective way to run your business. This is why we launched Aurora Serverless, which is an on-demand database. With Aurora Serverless, you no longer have to provision or manage database instances or clusters. Applications that have unpredictable or cyclical workloads can benefit from Aurora Serverless because you don't need to manually scale up and scale down or pay for unused capacity. So we're seeing a lot of customers use this when they have really unpredictable usage patterns on applications like online games, ticket sales, or news websites, where in a moment, one news story can be more popular than the entire site itself. So for applications that need consistent performance, where the workload is predictable and always on, like let's say in real-time bidding, Aurora instances should be the default choice. But if your application needs change over time, you can easily switch your Aurora database to a serverless one, and of course back. So it's great that we have all of these databases. But there's more things that you want to do with your data besides just store it. And as a CIO, I always felt that I was underserving my marketing and my business counterparts because it simply took way too long to turn around a new report on our data. That's because when you look at traditional analytics, about 80% of the work has nothing to do with the analytics at all. It's about managing the data, preparing the data, getting it to the right place, doing transformations on it, because one particular analytics engine only takes a particular format, and all this kind of undifferentiated heavy lifting. This is broken. Customers want to flip this equation. They want to spend 80% of their time on the analytics. You need to be able to move fast and react to changing customer behavior instantly. Otherwise, somebody else might satisfy your customer needs. And here are some of the things that I always struggled with as a CIO trying to give my business stakeholders good analytics. How are you going to get data into your data warehouse? How are you going to make it reliable? How automated can you make the ingestion of the data? Do you preserve the original data source? How do you do lifecycle management? Some of your data maybe can move into cold storage after 6 weeks. These are all questions that we would need to ask ourselves that would lead to a lot of work that isn't really related to providing the business what they needed. And one of the hardest things about doing analytics is that much of your data is probably sitting in various silos across the organization. One business unit has some data, another business unit has different but maybe related data, maybe they describe the customer slightly differently. The infrastructure team has different data than the application teams, and it's really hard to make sense of it all. So what does the right data architecture look like? We've spent a lot of time working with customers on this since it's such a headache for so many of them. And by listening to our customers, we've developed a set of services that can sit on top of your databases and other data sources and help even the largest and most complex enterprise make more sense of its data quickly. And it starts with Amazon S3. Customers have told us that the features and capabilities inside of Amazon S3 makes it the clear #1 choice for storing objects and creating data lakes. First, S3 has unmatched durability, availability, and scalability. Only S3 replicates your data into 3 availability zones within a single region, giving you unmatched resiliency. Only S3 lets you do cross-region replication seamlessly without having to use a separate storage class. And only S3 lets you choose which regions you want to replicate your data into and as many as you want to replicate to. Second, S3 has the best security, compliance, and audit capabilities in the industry. Security for us is more than features. It's our whole mindset. We are constantly building unique ways to secure every aspect of S3 usage. Only S3 lets you replicate data from one region to the other using company-specific keys stored by Amazon's key management service for the encryption between regions. S3 also has the most depth in the security and compliance controls, offering capabilities you simply can't get anywhere else. For example, S3 gives you the ability to audit how, when, and who is accessing individual objects in S3 through CloudTrail data events. Third, S3 offers object-level control at any scale. Other providers force you to set policies broadly across all objects in a bucket, which doesn't meet enterprise customer needs. With S3, lifecycle policies can be set to automatically delete or change tiers of groups of objects based on a common tag or a prefix, like a department code or a cost center. And one more thing that's really important with your data lake is getting data in. And AWS offers more ways to get data into S3 than anybody else, by far. We have AWS Snowball, which are physical devices that let you move petabytes of data into AWS. We offer the only practical option to move exabytes of data with AWS Snowmobile. We have over-the-wire options like Direct Connect, which is like your own private data pipe. And we have an S3 transfer acceleration, which is a unique way to move your data up to 500% faster. Finally, S3 has more than twice as many integrations with storage partners compared to any other cloud platform. That means it's really easy to use S3 with what you already have, from folks like NetApp, EMC, Veritas, and Cloudera, for use cases like primary storage, backup and restore, archive, disaster recovery, and analytics. No other cloud platform has more partners or solutions that are pre-integrated to work with S3. And over the last few years, a lot of our customers have told us that they wanted to run queries on only a portion of their data that's sitting in their data lake, which is why we launched S3 Select and Glacier Select, which now lets you extract just the bytes you need from the bytes you're storing. So for the first time, you can use SQL expressions to pull out specific data from an individual, let's say, log file, without having to spin up a compute cluster, ingest it into a data warehouse, or doing any heavy lifting to perform the analysis. And to eliminate much of the heavy lifting associated with ETLing, last year we launched AWS Glue, which is a fully managed extract, transform, and load service that makes it easy for you to prepare and load your data into Amazon S3, Amazon Redshift, Amazon RDS, and databases that you're running on Amazon EC2 for query and analysis. So by cataloging all of your data and automating the ETL process, AWS Glue not only takes a lot of the hassle out of analytics, it also makes it possible for you to store your data in as many sources as you want and very quickly analyze it using whatever AWS services you choose. All it takes is just a few clicks in the AWS Management Console. You simply point AWS Glue at your data, whether it's in AWS or on premises, and Glue will discover the associated metadata, things like your table definitions, classify it, generate ETL data transformations, and load the transformed data into your destination store, provisioning all the infrastructure it needs to do the job. This makes your data available for analysis across AWS's suite of analytics and machine learning services in minutes. And you only pay for the compute resources you consume while executing data preparation and loading jobs. So if you look at all the different parts of the modern data architecture, you can see that AWS is the only place that has not just the whole set of requirements, but also multiple choices in each. And it's why you'll be able to switch around how much time you spend on the real value, which is the analytics, versus all the prep work that you need to spend to get ready for it. Which is why all of these companies, folks like locally, Morningstar, who used our data and analytics platform to transform their online investment marketplace, and other folks like 21st Century Fox, Comcast, 3M, FICO, and others, choose to run their data and analytics on AWS. Now, analytics are great to help you look at what's happened in your business. But what about looking forward? What about building predictive signals, analyzing sentiment, and other maybe even more intelligent things that you can do with your data? Part of the promise of artificial intelligence and machine learning is that it can make your applications more intelligent and perhaps even more predictive. And we found that our applications can get a lot smarter when we make more intelligent use of our data. Amazon Retail is a great example of this. Amazon.com receives billions of orders. And since we know which orders in the past were fraudulent, we can start to use machine learning to predict the likelihood of a new order coming in being fraudulent as well. Now, we'd still send this order to a human to investigate, but if we tag orders in an automated way that are 90% or more likely to be fraudulent, the humans who are looking at them are making much better use of their time and are able to canvas billions of orders in a way that a human alone could not. The key here is that we can use software to find patterns for humans to investigate much more quickly. You're probably familiar with Amazon product recommendations, which have been around for a long time now. But we're seeing a lot of our customers take recommendations to a whole new level. Netflix will tell you that 75% of the movies and TV series watched on Netflix are driven by a recommendation. Think about that. That means that more often than not, when somebody sits on the couch and turns on Netflix, they allow Netflix to suggest to them what should be watching. And that recommendation algorithm is also driven by machine learning. Machine learning is also relevant in targeted ad placement. All of the images that come into Pinterest are being pushed through a whole series of machine learning algorithms to figure out whether it's spam or inappropriate content, and to automatically classify the images with the right metadata so that Pinterest can figure out what kind of ads would go well with that imagery. They don't do this by hand. There's no humans looking at this data. Like Netflix, Pinterest is using machine learning, but it's just in a different domain. The thing is that machine learning, for a very long time, has really been the domain of experts. That's at least certainly been true at Amazon, and we've been doing this for 25 years. Amazon has a rich heritage of artificial intelligence across the company. In the beginning of our retail business, we made product recommendations. We optimize our pick paths across the fulfillment centers. When you think about Alexa and our Echo devices, how we A/B test different features on our various websites. And as we became better at machine learning, we really wanted to start to expand it into other parts of our business as well. But even for us, with the deep heritage in AI and machine learning, it took longer than we wanted to for our teams to leverage machine learning in their services. So, over the last few years, we began building and exposing a number of machine learning services that any developer could use. We felt that more than just the experts needed access to these capabilities. Every builder needs to be able to use and have machine learning as a tool. And once machine learning became something that any builder could use, we saw an explosion of the capabilities that were being built by Amazon engineers. Everything from abusive review detection, fraudulent or counterfeit goods, all of these things became possible once we had a machine learning capability that everybody could use. And our customers are using AWS to do machine learning as well. Aon Securities, a financial services provider here in Chicago, needed high-powered compute to run financial simulations to value and manage insurance retirement products. So using our GPU-optimized instances and machine learning to perform those calculations, they lowered their reporting time from 10 days to 10 minutes. Some of you may be familiar with Major League Baseball's StatCast system, the tracking technology that analyzes the player performance for every game. Well, that leverages a number of our artificial intelligence and serverless technologies to enhance the game experience. Likewise, the NFL is using machine learning to analyze player routes on the field and enhance the viewing experience as well. In fact, there are tens of thousands of developers running machine learning on AWS, which accounts for an estimated 8 out of every 10 machine learning workloads out there today. That's the kind of leadership and community that time and again our customers tell us gives them the confidence to run their machine learning on AWS. Best of all, we have a whole suite of artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities that can help you see around corners in your business, regardless of how sophisticated you are at using machine learning today. If you're a hardcore data scientist, we give you the low-level building blocks you need access to, many of which come with popular industry frameworks like Apache MXNet, TensorFlow, Caffe, Theano, Torch, and others. If you're an engineer, Amazon SageMaker makes it easy for you to train, deploy, and scale machine learning models super quickly. And if you're an application builder, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have a number of fully managed AI services that help you build voice controls, image and video recognition, and language capabilities easily and quickly into your applications. So let's just hone in on SageMaker for just a moment. SageMaker is based around notebooks, which is a typical approach that builders use to describe their models. And it comes together with a whole set of algorithms that you can choose from, all of which have already been optimized to run at scale. You can do training in one click, and you're able to iterate super quickly by parameterizing either your own or one of the supplied algorithms. And then, once you're satisfied with the accuracy of your model, you can instantly deploy it and then auto-scale it according to your use case without having to manage any of the underlying servers. Now, maybe you have use cases where you don't want to build and train your own models. And all you want to do is take advantage of some of the machine learning services that we've built for images, text, speech, and language so that you can integrate these services into your applications in minutes. Lex gives you automatic speech recognition and natural language understanding. Poly gives you text-to-speech. Both of these two services are the components of Amazon Alexa. Recognition, image, and video help you understand who or what might be in an image or a video at scale. And we also have a number of text-based machine learning services: transcribe, translate, and comprehend. And these capabilities all have machine learning logic built into the service that you can harness right away for your applications. So many of these services are going to be featured in the various technical tracks that we have here throughout the day, so please drop by if you're interested in learning more. All in all, AWS has shipped more than 100 new services and major features for machine learning since reInvent 2017, more than double any other provider out there. So, to talk to us about how they're deploying machine learning to transform something that should all be very important to us, modern medicine, I'd like to introduce Keith Bigelow, the General Manager and SVP of Analytics and Artificial Intelligence from GE Healthcare, to the stage.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning. I'm Keith Bigelow with GE Healthcare. For those of you who don't know, we're headquartered right here in Chicago. We're about $19 billion a year in revenue, $3 billion in profit. And we do that by building the best medical devices in the world. And today I want to talk to you about why we are all in on artificial intelligence. And to do that, I'm going to tell you a story. Imagine this evening around 5 o'clock, I'm leaving the summit and I'm in a car wreck. Now, Bernie's company is going to come tow my car away because you can see the airbags deployed. He didn't mention an ambulance, but if the airbags come out, an ambulance is coming to pick me up and bring me to the local emergency room. When I get to the emergency room, they're going to perform a CT scan to try and understand my soft tissue injuries and any fractures that I have. Then they'll sew me all up after they've done a great surgery. And assuming everything goes really well, their team is going to do one last check. And that check is to take an X-ray. And this is a quality control measure that we do. And the purpose is to say, are there any remaining critical conditions? If not, and Keith is all better, well, then they'll wheel me off to post-op. But if there's something wrong, they're going to detect it, and then they'll go back to the emergency room table, they'll address it, and send me on my way to post-op afterwards. Well, if I'm taken to Rush University Medical Center, it's here in Chicago, it's one of the best, it's a level 1 trauma center, I know they know how to read that X-ray. They're going to determine exactly my mental and physical state and figure out if they need to do any final touches on my surgery or roll me out. But not every hospital is as good as Rush and Dr. Rob and the team there. So imagine I'm in a rural hospital here in the United States or somewhere else. Well, here in Chicago, there are 400 radiologists for 2.7 million of you in the population. In Kenya, there are 48 million people and 200 radiologists. So radiology is scarce. So if I'm in a rural area, I need to be a little bit worried. Number 2, X-rays are the highest volume of all scans performed. So that means there's a little bit of mundaneness to X-rays, as well as they're the lowest reimbursed scans of any scan done, which brings me to the third column here, which is that the X-ray is going to be read last. My CT, when I was rolled into ER, it's read immediately. An MR, read same day, but not the X-ray in all cases. If the X-ray is read on that day, it's probably read, because it's nighttime, remember I'm just leaving here tonight, by an intern. And an intern is going to see this. Now, it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. They've been working 12, 16, 18 hours. They're looking at this scan, trying to figure out, oof, does he have a critical condition? I don't want to crash in post-op 6 hours from now, which would be 3 in the morning, when nobody is around. I want someone to know whether or not I have a critical condition right now. And this is the perfect use case for artificial intelligence. So what artificial intelligence can do for us, first is detect, is there a critical condition? Second, it can localize it and tell me exactly where it is. And third, it can quantify it and say just how severe it is. So is this urgent and I need to be raced back to the table? Or is this minor and we just need to notify the care team? Now, what's really interesting about this is that this algorithm will exist on all our devices. So it's going to serve everyone in every rural community, in Kenya, in Asia, everywhere. How did we do it? So we partner with great hospitals to gain access to data and use cases that are really important for us to be able to embed in our equipment and in our software. And we take that de-identified data and we ingest it into our health cloud. Our health cloud, we started about 4 years ago with Amazon's help. And we've been building and building on top of it ever since. So we take that de-identified data and we ingest it into our platform where we catalog it until we have enough diverse data from Chicago, from California, from Canada, from Europe, from Africa, the Mideast, and Asia, so that we know we have a great data set to build our model. Then we open up Jupyter and we begin to invite data scientists, we invite radiologists to begin work on curating that data so that we know exactly the medical condition that we're searching for and identifying it in our training set. Then, and only after we have a normalized data set, do we bring it into SageMaker. And in SageMaker, we can train our model, tune it, tune it, tune it, until finally we have a great, highly precise model. And when we have that, we can deploy it. Thanks to SageMaker's container, we can deploy it to the cloud, so algorithm as a service. So maybe somebody is out in a remote region, they upload the scan of my chest X-ray, and they get back a result. Or we can deploy it to our software on the edge. So we have an edge device. This could be running our PACS, for example, which is where radiologists work every day. And the inferencing could occur there. And finally, we can deploy it to the device, so on the X-ray device. So we get real-time feedback from the device at the point of care. And all of this is possible because of this pipeline with SageMaker. Now, you might ask, well, why SageMaker? You guys have been doing machine learning for 25 years. You have the best medical equipment in the world. Well, the answer is we don't want just one algorithm. We want tens of thousands of algorithms. So what we chose SageMaker for was scale. Because what SageMaker allows us to do is have a HIPAA-compliant storage of petabytes of data from around the world. And it allows us to invite all our data scientists, all our radiologists to work communally across continental divide to curate and prepare that data and make sure that it is a great ground truth. In fact, for a single piece of data, a single scan, we'll often have it read many times so that we have ground truth and we know exactly that this data is perfect and the interpretation of it is spot on. When we bring it into SageMaker, our data scientists are thrilled. And the reason is they hate waiting. So what they can do is spawn in parallel 10 or more experiments with different model frameworks like TensorFlow or MXNet and evaluate the performance of each of those. And then as they winnow down on a couple of models that look like the best ones, they can flip from a P1 instance, which will take us 6 or 7 days to do this kind of inferencing, to a P3, which will take hours. And then finally, we take that SageMaker container and we can deploy it. Maybe I didn't mention this. We ship tens of thousands of medical devices a year. And we need to be able to deploy these models to Windows, to Linux, to CPUs, to GPUs. We need to be able to deploy these models regardless of the footprint of our device and regardless of the model framework that our data scientists chose for that particular use case. So scale is crucial to us. There's one non-functional reason that we chose SageMaker as well that I want to share. And that is the product manager for SageMaker. His name is Kumar. And throughout our journey of building out the health cloud and building out this AI pipeline, Kumar has been an amazing partner for us to realize our vision of intelligent health. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to survive my wreck tonight. The care team's going to be alerted to my issues. They're going to treat them. The quality of healthcare in the United States in Chicago is going up because of artificial intelligence. And access to quality healthcare will not just be for the rich. We are going to make this pervasively available in all 120 countries that we serve. And finally, errors are going to reduce, which means that costs are going to come down. And this is really crucial. So we at GE Healthcare, our purpose is to improve lives in moments that matter, and SageMaker and AI is going to make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. It's super amazing to see how these capabilities can be used to keep us healthier and maybe even help us live a couple extra days. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper into any of the machine learning topics that we reviewed this morning, please attend some of the relevant sessions today. And we also have this resource available for you online at ml.aws for you to learn more. Now, so far we talked about how the modern application is constantly evolving and how every builder now has access to a plethora of different services and choices to help them move faster and better meet their customers' demands. And while most of us all think that choice is good, a lot of our customers have asked us to package what we've learned about what good looks like in a 21st century architecture. So we've taken this to heart, and we've built something that we call the well-architected framework, which is based on the learnings from the thousands of engagements that our solutions architects have had with customers over the last 12 years. The well-architected framework has 5 different pillars: operational excellence, performance, security, reliability, and cost. And each pillar documents the best practices that we've observed architecting applications with millions of customers. Each of these pillars has answers to questions that customers often ask themselves. Things like, how do we do key rotations? Where and how should we store our secrets? What's the most cost-effective way to build resiliency across different regions into my applications? And dozens of others. And security has always been AWS's top priority. We deliver it into everything that we deliver for customers. And many of our customers are also making security everybody's job and making sure that it's their top priority as well. This is why the well-architected framework has a deep perspective on what type of security controls and services to use where and when. Well-architected gives you advice on how to build a good identity structure into your organization and what kind of detective controls and infrastructure provisioning roles you need, what sort of playbooks you'll want to have to deal with and handle incidents that may occur. And of course, one of the most important tools for data protection is encryption, which is why it's so important for us to continue to make it easy to encrypt your data in AWS, regardless of which service you're using. Encryption is not just easy on AWS, it's flexible. On S3 alone, we have 3 different ways to encrypt your data. Server-side encryption, where we encrypt your data and maintain the encryption key. Client-side encryption, where you manage the key for encryption. And you can also encrypt using the AWS key management system. We also have an encrypt by default setting, where when you set up an S3 bucket, you can select encryption by default, and any of the data that comes into that bucket will be encrypted even if the data coming in is in clear text. AWS makes it easy for you to encrypt all the time, any way that you choose. Security is no longer just the job of a small set of people in your companies. Builders need to be thinking about how to build security into their applications, just like we build security into all of our services. Protecting your business and protecting your customers should be your #1 priority, just as it is ours. So in addition to wanting to understand the best practices for the modern application, our customers have also asked us to help them retire their technical debt and exit their data centers through larger scale migrations to the cloud. And when I was a CIO, I always felt that my ability to innovate for my business and deliver for my customers was always held back by the time and attention that we had to spend keeping the lights on and managing our existing legacy systems. And more executives are telling me that the cloud is their obvious choice for any net new projects, but they simply don't have enough time to spend on the new while they also maintain the old. And one of the things that we've learned while helping hundreds of the world's largest enterprises migrate their legacy to the cloud is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach for migrating an application. The first common pattern we see, we call rehost, which many of us have called lift and shift, We find that in most large migration projects, many of our customers end up wanting to lift and shift or rehost half or more of their environment. Now, when I was at Dow Jones, we started with this ivory tower attitude, that we were going to re-architect everything before we moved it, and we weren't going to get the value out of the cloud unless we rebuilt everything first. Then I had a situation where I had to get out of a data center in about 2 months, and we were able to migrate using a rehosting pattern, everything in there in about 6 weeks, and much to my surprise, we saved about 40% on our costs just by doing that, which dramatically changed our strategy to where we ended up lifting and shifting the majority of our workloads over the next 3 years. We find that rehosting can be automated with tools like VMware on AWS and the AWS Migration Hub, though a lot of our customers do prefer to do this manually, particularly in the beginning, as they're learning how to use the platform. A lot of our customers will use their early rehosting efforts to really get some quick wins on the board and use that learning to influence the larger migration. GE started their cloud journey with an aggressive top-down goal of moving 50 applications in 30 days and has since migrated several thousands. So we've packaged this approach up into something we call 50 and 50, where we work with customers to try and migrate 50 applications in 50 days to show them how easy it is and how they can start to see some of those benefits. Replatforming, which I sometimes call lift, tinker, and shift, is where you're making some optimizations as you move towards the cloud, but you may not be fully rewriting your application on its way. Good example of this, a media company I worked with in New York had several thousand instances of a web server they were running using WebLogic, which is a paid-for container, Java application container, which they moved to Apache Tomcat, its free open source equivalent, without changing any of the code, and saved about $4 million in the process. And the AWS Marketplace also comes with many vendor-created stacks that are ready to deploy and optimize for AWS to help you here as well. This approach can still give you some quick wins, but it makes a much more meaningful difference in how quickly you transform both your culture and your organizations. One of my favorite stories is from Edmunds.com, who implemented something that they called a 2-week rule, where each engineering team could take up to 2 weeks to optimize their applications as they moved them, but had to stop at 2 weeks. They found that this was a nice balance between reaping the benefits of the cloud while without also taking too long. Reprovisioning, which I sometimes call drop and shop, moving towards a cloud-based service model instead of having to manage an on-premises license of the same thing. A lot of our customers are moving towards fully managed SaaS, or software as a service models, and going towards solutions like Workday, Drupal, and Salesforce, where they get the software, hardware, and licensing and support all wrapped up into one pay-as-you-go commercial model. This is another model where our AWS Marketplace can be extremely helpful in finding the right solution for your needs. Re-architecting allows you to skip right to the state-of-the-art by leveraging the broadest set of container-based, serverless, machine learning, and managed NoSQL offerings in the market. FINRA, again, that regulatory body I talked about who looks after the US exchanges. 5 years ago, when they were first moving to the cloud, they evaluated all of these different options and decided to end up re-architecting their core application, which detects fraud within 24 hours of market activity. And they did this because it was too important not to. FINRA believed that a modern cloud environment would be the only way that they would be able to scale to meet the growing needs of the market. And it turns out they were right. They're now doing 500 billion validation checks on market trades daily, all running on AWS. This is the sort of application that would be nearly impossible to build if you were constrained inside of your own data centers. And as we continue to learn from customers who are migrating different types of applications using various different strategies, we continue to build blueprints and best practices into a knowledge base that our teams can share with you as you approach your migration. This way, the knowledge gained from customers who've migrated an application, database, or data center that might look like yours can help speed up your migration. And our customers tell us that having hundreds of examples like this is one of the reasons that they find AWS the quickest and easiest platform to migrate to. And we're going to continue to harvest all of these learnings and experience to benefit the broader community. And this is also why we developed the Migration Acceleration Program, which pulls together everything that AWS has learned by helping hundreds of the world's largest enterprises transform through large-scale migrations into a single program where we can help you build a business case, build the right foundational elements in your organization, and execute a migration that will allow you to retire much of your technical debt and focus on the innovation that your customers and your business demand. You can learn more about this program at this link or talk to your account rep who may be with you here today. So we covered a lot this morning. That everybody's become a builder. The concept of the application is evolving. Many of the different services that we have to help you build, and some of the programs that we have so that you can be confident that you're building well. And just in case that you haven't heard from me enough yet this morning, I've outlined everything that I've learned about deploying the cloud in a large-scale enterprise in a book that I launched in March called Ahead in the Cloud, which I'm happy to give out in the expo today, just after this keynote. Maybe we'll do a few signings for people who want to come by and say hi. So with that, I know you're all busy. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Please go build, have fun, and make history.